Anyway, what we're going to do now is we're going to cut this rib section into rib steaks. Could make a prime rib roast out of it, but rib steaks are more versatile. And as I said, we're going to just kind of, I said earlier, where this is kind of Bill's style of doing things. We're going to cut this rib the thickness that I want to cut it. I didn't even consult with these people, because a lot of years ago, somebody that I respected that was in the meat business told me that when you cut a prime rib into steak, 3/4 of an inch is about the right thickness, because it's got all of that natural fat in it, and when you barbecue it, it's never going to dry out, and it's kind of nice to render a little bit of that fat. You don't want them too thick. So here we go. Just kind of square up the end a little bit. And we're going to try to divide this up equally, so I'll make 4 stacks. You usually end up with about 12 rib steaks with a prime rib. I kind of suspect we'll be a little bit off on this one, but okay, we didn't come out exactly even, but Diane's going to do something to make that perfect later. She'll make some kind of an adjustment with a extra steak from some other part. And one of the things I always tell people about this whole process is that, you know, I'm cutting this thing up and it takes a fair measure of skill to do it right. But the wrapping is actually every bit as important, because when you take something home like this and put it in the freezer, you want to be able to open up a nice package today, and then 6 months from now you want to be able to open up a nice package that's not all freezer burned. And that takes some skill. A lot of the newer operations use a vacuum packaging. I just use the plain old double wrap with paper, and it works just fine if you do it correctly, like Diane always does. And it doesn't, you don't have to worry about the vacuum packaging breaking, because it's all just done with a skilled human hand here. And let's see, Diane is getting those steaks ready, and I'm going to cut some more steaks while Diane's doing that. I'm going to cut some T-bone. And then we're going to show you how this stuff gets wrapped. These T-bones I'm cutting just a little bit thicker. These first few cuts on here are sometimes referred to as porterhouses, but here we're just going to call them T-bones. They're called porterhouses because they have a little bigger fillet section in them. This side here is the New York, and that's the fillet side here. cutters and butchers around. Different guys that work in the shop that do different things. A lot of guys are just trying to concentrate on using the saw, and they leave the knife work for somebody else. And there were a lot of butchers around that didn't have all their fingers. That's unfortunate, but I've managed to keep mine. There's a lot of ways to lose them here. I'm going to trim these steaks up for Diane. She'll continue with the process. When you trim these steaks, you want to leave a little bit of fat on them, especially this nice fat here. It's should have a good flavor to it. There's all this talk anymore about grass-fed beef, but the key thing is not just grass-fed beef, but actually grass-fattened beef, and it's kind of a seasonal product because ideally, it's not something you want to take off of green grass. You want to take it off of grass that's matured. And that's what this was. It was, you know, right at the peak of its productivity. You know, the grass it all headed out. The grain had come to a head on the grasses, the various grasses. In this part of the country, this is Central California, the grass is at its peak in about the middle of May or towards the end of May. If you go farther north into Oregon and Washington, the grass matures in August, July and August. It's kind of like the produce business. You kind of have to follow it to catch it at the right time. And the other thing that people talk about grass-fed beef, they think about it from health terms and in terms of, you know, it being healthier meat, but I think when it's done right, it's actually more flavorful. It's got you know, something people don't think of with meat is it should be just like everything else. It should be just like vegetables or grapes on a vine. The taste of the meat ought to reflect where it comes from. The French always talk about that when they talk about food. They talk about that concept of, we've got a word for it, terroir, I think it is, and it's the actual taste of the place. And that's what we've got here. Around here, the grass that the cattlemen all look for is, well, there's brome grasses, which are kind of a taller grass that comes to a head, and then there's fillery is really the main component of the feed around here. It's a kind of a clover-like plant that grows close to the ground, and it's got lots of nutrients in it, and the cattle do real well on it. And this beef here had a fair amount of fillery. And that same little weed, if you want to call it, it grows from California all up into the Northwest.